You decided to take action against your big goals. However, you notice something very interesting. Your progress is minimal, especially if you've done it on a long enough time frame. Now it looks as though you take one step forward and two steps backwards. You're pissed off because they sold you the idea. Work hard, persistence, determination, and ultimately you'll be successful. Currently, there is no justification for your sacrifices in the form of a nice watch, a nice boat, a nice house that compensates for all the sacrifices, all the toil, all the effort, all the birthday parties, all the clubs, and every single thing you had to relinquish in order to achieve success. Every single thing you had to deny yourself in the pursuit of greatness. Remember how you had to relinquish video game. Remember the bodies you gave up. Remember the addictions you stopped. Remember the girlfriends you had to break up with. Remember the movies you had to stop watching. Majority of you, and this is a consistent thread among great individuals, you are so busy, you no longer have time for movies. I guarantee you, if you're a very serious individual who's in this pursuit of goals and greatness, you are so busy. In fact, you struggle to complete your to-do list, let alone have time for some movie. You made the decision to stop watching people fulfill their purpose while you chase yours. And now it looks as though your result hasn't materialized. That's why you gravitate towards those activities you previously relinquished. Majority of you are crawling back to addictions. Majority are going back to do things. It's as though you deprived yourself of something in exchange for another thing. And it looks as though life is not holding to its own end of the bargain. No, no, no. Give me back what I gave you. That's how it appears. It is you are just diagnosed. There are beliefs I would like to share that will help you go through this difficult phase of your life. The first one is all hurdles are surmountable. Now, do not make the mistake of foolishly believing that you understand what I'm saying. Be quiet and listen. The sufficient knowledge of this determines as to whether or not you finish, whether or not you achieve your goals. All hurdles are surmountable. We know this intrinsically, we know this viscerally, we know this that nothing lasts forever. However, when you are in the seasons of pain, when you are going through difficulties, when you have those 400 and something video failure, posting consistently, no engagement, no view, trying your best possible to achieve a certain goal, and yet it doesn't seem to materialize. All you think about is giving up. In fact, that's the logical thing to do, and most men do. Give up. That's the same reason you cry over a family member. You know, crying over this family member won't raise them from the dead. Crying over XYZ won't do you much. If she was here, she would want you to be happy. Yet, faced with the same situation, you crumble, you get all emotional, you cry your eyes out. Why don't you apply that same advice to your own life? Failure is a learning process. Once you iterate, you get feedback, you try again. You failed consistently. In fact, your actions are sporadical. You perform at irregular intervals. In other words, you stop as a result of failure, then continue when you feel motivated. Why do you not continue immediately after you failed? Emotions, emotions. You do not think logically faced with failure. You're always caught up in the moment. You allow failure, you allow your emotions dictate how you act, dictate your next move. Now, every single one of you agree with me cerebrally that these two shall pass. My friend, all you're doing is playing the role of a victim. Winners talk about what they made happen. Losers talk about what happened to them. My friend, you can force life to work. You don't stand in the gates of life and speak English, open for me. No! During the time of John, up until now, the kingdom suffered violence, and only the violent taketh it by force. Even when God, the God of the universe, handed Canaan to the Israelites, he said something very remarkable. Contend with them in battle and possess your possession. So even when God gives you something, you still have to go in battle. You still have to battle. You still have to go there with a sword in your hand, bruised, covered in scars, yet still persisting, yet still determined, yet still holding that vision and believing that one day it will materialize. My friend, the only thing the devil can do is to make you stop. But nothing can stop a man who desires not to stop. Remember the story in the Bible that says, and these men set their heart to build a tower that will reach the heaven. Look at it from God's standpoint. He said nothing will be restrained from them which they have set their heart to do. That is the God of the universe talking, that nothing, including he himself, will be restrained from a man who seeks to die unless he sees his result. We see this, that the woman, the widow, and this context is even out of the kingdom. She had nothing. Everybody despised her. She had no connection, no relationship, but she had her needs. And she went there every single day, knocking on the door of the judge, who neither feared God or man. And on a long enough time frame, the judge arose and said, I would answer this woman unless she weary my soul. You can weary destiny until you become. You can force life to work. That irregardless of the pain, you fail time and time again. And in fact, those friends, I told you so. Why are you wasting your time? Come take the peace with us. Come, let's go party. Come, let's go club. And irregardless of those painful situations, you're seeing the stories. You're seeing the status updates. You're balling. You're living the life. And what are you doing? Improving your mind, reading books. It's in that moment of pain that the logical mind kicks in. I don't see how reading books and studying the economy parallels to your financial success. How does becoming articulate? How does becoming a good communicator? How does shooting balls in a hoop connotes to purpose? Dump this shit. Go have fun. You're in your 20s. Be happy. My friend, if you conform to that voice, you lose it all. When you lose a dream, it's very difficult to find it because the same amount of time spent in hedonism is the same amount that will be spent in retracing your steps. Hedonism is not just like a switch where you turn off and on, success mode, hedonism. No. If you walk a path of hedonism and degeneracy, if you walk a path of licentiousness, clubbing and party, trying to turn off the switch, revert to where you initially began, will prove difficult. Force life to work. My friend, do not pamper failure. There's something that's not working in your life. Address it. Be consistent. Be persistent. Look at it logically. What did I do wrong? What did I do right? How can I improve this activity? Do not sit down there and let failure overwhelm you. Do not sit down there and hope for something magical to happen. And this is the problem I have with you individuals. Majority of you are comfortable to sit down there and die. Majority of you are comfortable to fold your arms, wait for something to happen. I refuse to be inactive. I refuse to be stagnant while I watch my mates achieving monumentally. In fact, your problem stems from the kind of environment, the kind of people you surround yourself with. When you are in an environment where porn is acceptable, where degenerate conversations is the new norm. Oh, bro, have you seen XYZ? Ah, I beat my meat to it and it was very awesome. Check it out. That kind of conversation is not something my mind can fathom. But when you are in an environment like mine, where your neighbor, just right by my right hand side, is constructing his house. You're in an environment where he just acquired the land, he's building his own house from the ground up, rental property. The other person has moved out to his own apartment. This other person is making considerable progress and progress. Why the fuck won't you be forced to act? Environment matters, but be consistent. This is a season where I want every single LS fan to make considerable progress with their life. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, it is painful. Yes, once you start, you foray on all four cylinders. We are going to make it. Like a game, everybody is hyped up at the initial stages. As time goes on, people begin to follow. People begin to follow. But only the discipline, only the people who are willing to die until they see their results will have it materialized. I recall one time, and I've shared this story countless times. I staked my whole financial future on a business, day after day, working hard as possible, hoping that this business will materialize. And guess what happened? Fucking didn't. In fact, my rent and tuition fee I staked on this business. The landlord was knocking on my door. The college was calling up. You need to pay your fees or you won't write exams. If you don't write exams, you're automatically dropped out because this lecturer won't fucking give you a listening ear. And every single thing was falling. I was in the middle of an implosion. And I got on my knees that night with tears in my eyes. And I said, you have to kill me for me to give up. I'd rather be dead than to give up. Most times in situations when you start a business, it's not yielding the kind of profit you desire. The enthusiasm to go to work depletes. You find it difficult to do certain things, to apply yourself to the consecration that makes for good. I hope what I'm saying is being recorded. Let me change the position. Alright, there we go. You find it difficult to apply yourself to the consecration that makes for the desire. In that moment, remind yourself that the emotion of regret outweighs any kind of negative emotion you currently feel. Don't give up. Don't give up. Bear destiny. Be like that widow who got on her knees every single day. Avenge me my adversary. Avenge me my adversary. And why it looks as though life is not listening. Why it looks as though the judge isn't listening. Why it looks as though YouTube isn't pushing the content. Why it looks as though Twitch, people aren't engaging in your content. One day they will arise, answer you, else you buried their soul. The second is not the circumstances and happenings. that causes pain, but the interpretation we give to those circumstances. I've said it countless times. Perception is key. Perception is key. You and I can look at a flag. One might feel disgusted, the other patriotic. So the same object of focus, yes, different interpretation. And if we are going to act based on our perception, our results will be vastly different. One might lead to violence, the other not. There's this story of a king and five blind men. He saddled those blind men with the responsibility of describing an elephant. On their way, they met a very interesting individual. He offered them something to drink. Where you headed, blind men? They explained their route. Alright, go to your right. There are a bunch of elephants grazing. It's a perfect learning ground. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Immediately they arrived. The first blind man felt the tusk of the elephant, the second the trunk, the third the forehead, the fourth grabbed his leg, and in that order. In other words, they have based their perception of an elephant on various parts. Went back to the king, happy, smiling, eager to review their discovery. The first blind man who held the trunk. The elephant is in the similitude of the snake, and he went further to explain based on that perception. The second who held the tusk. The elephant is as strong as rocks, immovable as a rock. In that like manner, they went on to give their various dissertation of the elephant. The point I'm trying to highlight, I'm sure most of you who are very intelligent individuals would have already figured it out, is that if there was an opportunity associated with that description of an elephant, they would have missed it completely. In or as a consequence, spend extensive hours in prayer, asking all kinds of questions. Yet the blessing has already been given, but they were not discerning enough to identify as well as maximize the opportunity. I mentioned opportunity and it seems abstract. So let me narrow it down. Let me look for a logical parallel that links opportunity with the concept of perception. So basically your perception leads to your action. Your action produces results. Results determines the quality of your life. If you truly believe that this country is poor and it's impossible for you to succeed, that mindset begins to dictate your action, which is going for small jobs, going for meager things, believing small, engaging in conversations that further plunges you into that wrong belief. And what happens after you've taken consistent action to your detriment? It comes to reality, it comes to pass, and you feed yourself back. I knew it, and you were right. Henry Ford said, the person who says he can and the person who says he can are both right. So whether you believe you can or you can't, you are right. Recall the story of two travelers. Immediately the first one arrived at the foreign land, about to enter the gate. His eye caught something very surprising. It was an old farmer tilling the ground. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. I heard this land is evil, bad, filled with robbers, looters, and the women are ugly. The economy is in a decline. The farmer smiled, raised up his hand. You're right. Went back to tilling the ground. The first guy passed. The second traveler arrived. He made that same mistake. About to enter. Hello, sir. Excuse me. Excuse me. I heard this land is good, filled with milk and honey. The economy is flourishing. The women are beautiful. Every single person is courteous and respectful. In fact, they treat foreigners very well. Is that the case? He raised up his head and gave him that same response. You are right. So whatever you think is possible, if you truly believe you need to bust your butt in order to get money, you're right. If you truly believe in smart work coupled with hard work, you're right. So anything you believe, you're right. Perception, perception is key. I've talked over two concepts, or I've talked about two concepts. The first one, hurdles can be surmounted. The second, perception is key. View your life through this lens and you'll be fine. You would notice that your life would move from point A to point B. You would notice this is something you can access in real time. That once applied, the result shows in your life automatically. This is not something you have to do consistently. That a slight change in perception changes everything. How you see the world determines how you see yourself. Do this and you'll be fine. As always, my friend, it's a pleasure speaking to you. See you next